All right, everyone. According to my clock, it's 3:30, which means I get to stop sitting here and scrolling through TikTok and actually talk to you guys about some ads. I was actually like, I haven't actually had time to catch up on my comments. I was like going through them and doing stuff. But thank you for all being here. It's nice to see so many people who are still like coming to basic standard Facebook ads classes, which is great because Facebook ads are how I actually became a full-time author. My wife Jill and I, who's finally in the audience, she gets to be here with us this time. Hey! So my daughter Eva's there with her. She cracked Facebook ads for us in 2016 and then sends me out to talk about them. It works out well. So I also was like, Craig was like, by the way, Mal, you get 45 minutes this year, and there's that. I'm like, oh, cool. And then 15 minutes for questions. He's like, ha, you're funny. No. So if you remember my one from last year, like I was like, Craig, I need 90 minutes to do a talk, and I guess he said like, yeah, that's great, Mal, not this year. So good luck. So we're gonna try and cram how to do Facebook ads into 45 minutes and how to know if they're working and everything into 45 minutes. So I drilled it down to 5 simple steps. And like, how basic can I make this? And I teach Facebook ads all the time. I spend all day Tuesday, all day Thursday, and usually a good chunk of Monday and Wednesday as well, training authors on Facebook ads, helping them work through their Facebook ads, helping review their Facebook ads. And I've really gotten pretty good, I think, at like really drilling down to just the things you need to do, because a Facebook ad platform is built, it's not built for authors. It's not built for people selling a $4 product. It's built for like, Apple and Samsung and Lexus and Land Rover and stuff like that. And we're just sort of like squeaking in there, and making some use of it as well. So that's what we're gonna get into. So in case you don't know, I am Malorie Cooper. I write science fiction under MD Cooper. I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. I published my first book, OutSystem, in 2012, and that's my top cover up there. That's one I did myself in 2012. Just like that evidence of like, don't do your own covers, at least until you know better. And I think I sold like maybe a couple hundred books between then and 2016, and then in 2016. We figured out how to do Facebook ads, Jill and I, and you can see that June was when I released my third book, and I did like maybe $1,000 in sales, and then released my fourth book in November and did $25,000 in sales. So they can work. Oh, and this is an old slide. This should be updated. This is about $1.7 million now is what we've made on Amazon since then, plus like another maybe $250,000, $500,000 on other platforms with audio and stuff like that too. So we've done all right with this whole Facebook thing. It's been a good run. And that's the majority of where we do our ads is Facebook. We run some AMS ads as well, but that's really it. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is doing dynamic creative ads. A lot of people aren't yet on the dynamic creative ad bandwagon. They're still doing things where you make a lot of ads manually yourself, and that definitely used to be the way to do it before pandemic. But during pandemic, all the Facebook engineers had nothing else to do, so they worked really hard on enhancing their AIs, and their AIs are now better at building ads than we are. So dynamic creative ad is where you give Facebook, you give it a bunch of text options, and that's the primary text that goes above the image. You give it a bunch of images, and then you give it some headlines, and it mix and matches and creates all of your ads for you. And some people are like, oh my God, like, what do you mean it's creating the ads for me? Like, I'm not sure that I trust the robots to do that. And the reason why we want to do that is because Facebook knows a lot about all of us. In fact, I'm sure that we've all noticed that the internet in general knows a lot about us. You say like, I need new shoes near your cell phone, and every ad on the internet is now for shoes. And on top of that, the Facebook knows, one of the other reasons why they know a lot about us is because we just type it in the box. When we're telling our friends, we're also surprised telling Facebook as well. But they know what we click on. They know that I click on short text, and some of you click on long text, and I love clicking on images of people selling me catsuits and shoes, and other people click on images, more landscape pictures of what catches them. Maybe I like, anytime you show me like something in blue, I'm more likely to click on it, and someone else something in red. Someone else like will click on like lots of ads that have black and white images, and they know the words that we click on, and they know all sorts of things about that, and they know exactly what to put in front of us to get us to click the ad. And likewise with all of our readers. So when you give Facebook a bunch of options, different lengths of text, different types of images, you'll see here I'm doing images of like people and settings, and I've got different colors of images, and they're all high contrast, well, except for that that one sort of second from the bottom right is low contrast. But they're all high contrast images. Contrast images are the ones that catch people's attention as they're scrolling. The best way to tell if an image is high contrast is flip it into black and white. And if it's really crisp and clear and you can see it well in black and white, then it's easy to read. Do that with your book covers, by the way, when you get them back from your designers. Flip your book covers in black and white. Make sure you can read everything at thumbnail. Make sure it's really visible, because that's how you'll know. 1 in 5 men, 1 in 5, no, what is it, 1 in 4 men? Something 1 in 5, 1 in 4 men are colorblind by age 50, and like 1 in 7 or 8 women has some amount of color blindness by age 50 as well. So that's something to think about too. Like your covers and your art needs to be legible or visible in black and white. Now, just as a side note, like most men, it's usually red or green that they miss. Interesting fun thing is if you put red text on a gray background, anybody who's red color blindness will see gray on gray. So that's one of the reasons also why you want to flip these images into black and white, to make sure that they're really visible, and do the same with your book covers. So that's random segue. So when you're making a dynamic creative ad, what I always recommend to people to do is, before you sit down and start doing things in Facebook, is actually to create all of your ad copy and to find the images that you want to use. So when it comes to creating your ad copy, we've got these different text options. And again, those are the things that go above the image. I recommend doing something short, like a tagline, something about the length of your blurb, and then also like actually put in the first chapter of your book as one of your ad copy options. It works especially well with romance. But generally speaking, if someone's gonna, I think the length of the maximum length you get is about 2,500 words. Your first chapter should end in a pretty strong hook, if you've done things properly. So that's a great thing to put in there. And if someone reads the first chapter of your book in a Facebook ad, they're going to click and they're probably going to buy. Especially if you're in KU, they're going to click and they're going to read. It's like a no-brainer. So if you haven't made Facebook ads before, I'm kind of not showing everything because, again, 45 minutes. But the thing that, again, what I recommend is doing these dynamic creative ads and letting the AIs, who know everything about how we all behave, figure out how to make the best ad for all of us. So what you do is, when you're making the ad, on the ad set tab, because you go through 3 levels. First you make the campaign, then you make the ad set, and that's where you like choose your audience and your budget and where the ad's going to show. And there's this innocuous little toggle in here that says dynamic creative, and you turn that on. It doesn't change anything on the ad set page, but on the ad page it then lets you put in multiple pictures and multiple images and multiple text and stuff like that. So this is what it looks like actually on the ad page. Hopefully this is clear-ish to all of you. You can see that you can pick multiple images and put in multiple images for your ad. You can put in multiple primary text options, and then you can put in multiple headlines. Generally, what I suggest doing is putting in 3 to 5 images, 3 text options, a short, a medium, and a long, and then probably 2 headlines. And so the interesting thing is that, like, if a lot of you have made Facebook ads before and you're trying to do it, you've like gone through the rigmarole of making this ad, and then making that ad, and then making the next ad, and making the next ad. This is, if I was to do 5, it's 5 times 3 times 2. It's 30 ads that this will make. And it takes like all of a minute to do that, and to have Facebook create 30 ads for you. And it doesn't actually create all 30. It tries different combinations and finds the good ones, and it doesn't make some that it doesn't think will work, but potentially there's 30 ads behind there. This says you just made 12 ads, but I'm not sure what I was smoking when I did that math, because it should be 30. I guess I only showed 12 ads worth of things on the screen. That's what I'm going with. So hopefully that's pretty clear. Actually, I should actually stop and ask a question here. Who hasn't ever made a Facebook ad before? It's like never done. Oh my God, gee, there's a lot of you, dear God. I think I should have taken one step further back. You can blame Craig. No, don't blame Craig. Don't go to Craig and tell him that Mal said to blame him for short sessions, because that will be the end of me. But hopefully, like, if you haven't made Facebook ads before, there's a lot of really great tutorials out there. Jill and I run a free 5-day Facebook ad challenge a couple times a year. I think our next one is gonna be in December, or do we have to? January. It's gonna be in January. That's the good thing. Jill's here to help me out. Where we actually do we do whole 5 days walking you through how to create Facebook ads and stuff like that. So if you haven't done it before and you're kind of like, dear God, what is Mel talking about? That will kind of help you out a bit. But really what it comes down to when you're making Facebook ads is really just this whole thing of like, find your creative ahead of time, find your images, find your text and all of that, and then go ahead and make the ad. Actually, I'm gonna take a quick step back here and talk about the images that we use. A lot of times when people first start out making Facebook ads, they use their book covers. And a lot of people recommend that you use your book covers. I personally don't. And there's reasons why they recommend that you do it, and there's reasons why I recommend you don't. So one of the important things to know about the way that our retailers work, especially Amazon, is one, Amazon doesn't care about your book rank. Just so you guys know that. I know there's still some controversy around that thing, but rank doesn't actually drive any behavior on Amazon whatsoever, except for giving you an orange tag if you're number one in a category. Rank is an indicator of behavior, not a driver. Sorry, an indicator of activity, not a driver of activity. However, where was I going with all of this? My mind just suddenly went blank. I've had COVID 4 times, which can make things difficult. Don't use your book cover. Yes. So one of the things, so if you send people, like if I put pictures up here of these cool sci-fi images, and I have a bunch of texts that is like, this is the best thing since sliced cheese. If you like pew pew, you're gonna like this. And that's like all it says. And then people who love sci-fi movies, TV shows, and video games click on that. They're gonna land on my book page on Amazon, and they're not gonna buy. And what that does is that trains Amazon to think that my book doesn't sell, which is what you don't wanna do. Amazon cares about one thing. They care about conversion. They care about when people land on your product page, how many views of your product page does it take to make a sale. And the reason why they care about that is Amazon actually does do some things for us when it comes to promoting our books. They choose the order of the search results when people search for books on Amazon. And that's the number one way that people do things on Amazon, right? They don't go and they don't browse categories. They don't look at bestseller lists. In fact, studies show that our readers don't even know the bestseller categories exist. They go and they type in the box what they want, right? And they get a list of things. And that list of things, one of the drivers of the order, not the only driver, but one of the drivers of the order is the number of books that convert. How well the different books convert. They do other things, like you ever like sometimes wandered around or looked in your inbox and you see an email from Amazon saying like, hey, you like this book, you might like these books as well. And it's especially funny when your book is in the suggested books that you might like. You're like, well, yes, I do like that book. That's something that they do based on the fact they think these books might convert. And so if you train Amazon by sending a lot of traffic to them that doesn't convert, they will stop doing those promotional activities for you because they can only send out so many emails. They can only show so many search results. And they're going to send out emails and show search results for the things that are most likely to sell because that's when they make the money, right? If they show books that don't sell, they make no money. If they show books that do sell, they make money. So the idea behind putting your book cover as one of these images, wow, I just got really loud all of a sudden, as one of these images is that, or maybe I'm deaf in this ear? Sorry, I'm just like suddenly wondering why I got so much louder when I turn sideways. Is that if they click on the image of a book cover, they know it's a book, right? Like it's kind of a no-brainer. And so a lot of folks advocate doing that because then you guarantee that if someone clicks on your book cover, lands on Amazon, they know it's a book, and you reduce the likelihood of them bouncing, which is them just leaving and being like, wow, I don't read books, why am I here? The downside is that Facebook hates things that look like ads. So back actually even in 2015 and 2016, you couldn't put up an ad with any text on it at all because Facebook would just simply deny any ad where the image had text on it. And the reason why is about in 2015, Facebook hit ad saturation on the platform, whereas if they put more ads on the platform, people would stop using Facebook. Like they would see their usage decrease. So Facebook runs as many ads on their platform as they can without driving their users away. And a great way to make it so you can run more ads on your platform is if ads don't look like ads. And that's why they prefer ads without text on them because regular humans don't post like book covers and stuff like that. We post pictures of our cats and the meal we're about to eat and stuff like that, or the drink at the bar, I had like a great drink at the bar last night. I took a picture of that. I didn't put it on Facebook because I'm terrible. I take pictures of all sorts of things. I never put them on Facebook. Jill's giving me a look right now because whenever we take pictures together, she's like, send me the picture right now because you're never going to post it. And she just said I haven't sent it yet. Didn't I send them? Oh, I thought I did. Oops, see? This is my problem. Anyway, so if you put a book cover up, of course it looks like an ad, and they don't want that. So they want images more like this that don't look like ads, that just sort of look like, not very many people post pictures of spaceships, but they at least look a little bit less like ads. The thing that happened though around 2016, 2017 is that regular humans started posting pictures that had text on them, otherwise known as memes. And that's why Facebook actually started to allow pictures with text on them because it became a more normal activity for regular folk to post pictures with text on them. The thing though is that Facebook actually prefers if your text looks like a meme. So if you make your ad text look really ad-like, they're not gonna like it. And when Facebook doesn't like your text on your image, they show it less often and they charge you more money for it. So that's why I personally recommend not using your book cover, because they will charge you more money for that ad. And actually, because they charge you more money, it gets shown less, because if you have a $5 a day budget and they're charging you a buck a click, you're only going to get 5 clicks, right? Whereas if they're charging you less money and you pay 10 cents a click, you're going to get 50 clicks. So what do you do then in that scenario where if you're showing images like this that could cause somebody to, to click on it, doesn't read books? How do you deal with that? And the way that I deal with it, and this isn't, I don't always do it perfectly, but if you look at my headlines on the right-hand side, these are the things that go below the image. I try to use bookish words. I was doing an experiment on this one where I used execute hard burn just to sort of see if I could capture the sci-fi people. It did terrible. Available wherever good books are sold, which is so cheesy and salesy. I just figured, like, let's try two extremes. Let's try something really nerdy with no context, and let's try something really salesy. The available wherever good books are sold thing works really well. If you're wide, it seems lame, but that language actually works really well. And so I'm using the word book in there, though. And when I work with authors, I always say, like, put bookish words in your headline: series, read, author, story, words like that, because people will subconsciously, even if they don't really pay attention to it, they will subconsciously pick up those words, and their mind will set a context of book and story. And that's an easy way for you to get around that without having to put your book cover up on the thing. You can, although the great thing with dynamic creative is, don't take my word for it. You can put 10 images in there. Put your book cover in the mix, put some in like this, put your book cover in there, put something really that looks like an ad, and then you can actually just look at the results and see how they all work. That's the great thing about doing this, is that you can make every decision based on data. You don't have to start with assumptions. You can give Facebook a lot of things to work with, and then you can see what will work, because sometimes your book cover will work better. So it's worth giving it a shot. So I always recommend people, like, try all the things. Another thing that I didn't do in here on this example, I did, I guess, on one of them, where, this is the embarrassing one. I showed this in a presentation on Sunday. I always put underneath my text, you can see in the top one, I put the links to different retailers, or if it's just on Amazon, I just say ebook and then print in an audiobook. And apparently I typed in Apple and then forgot to put the link in. That ad's still running. I need to fix that. But so for books that are just on Amazon, I actually always put all the links in ebook, print, and if I have audiobook, I put an audiobook print in there, or link in there as well. If it's wide, I'll put Amazon, Apple, usually I'll put in Barnes & Noble as well, and I'll put like other retailers, and then I'll have a link to like books to read or something down in there. And the reason why I do that little tidbit is because I've run a lot of ads, and invariably someone will be like, is this available in print? And I think to myself, you dingus, if you click the link, you would know this. But I don't say that because that's mean. And I just say, yes, well, yes, it is available in print, and here's the link, thinking to myself, there's no chance they're ever going to see this comment. I've lost this person. And I also think to myself, if I've had like a couple people ask me if this book is available in print without clicking the link, how many other people have also like just not commented? So that's why I always put those links in there. And every author that I work with that starts doing that will see like a 5 to 10-fold increase in their print sales, which for most of us isn't huge, right? You go from like 1 a week to 5 a week, but it's still sales you wouldn't have got otherwise. And the same thing with audiobooks. You put in your audiobook links and you're going to sell more audiobooks by doing that. And just sort of a fun side note, that's how you advertise print and audio. You don't try to run specific audiobook ads. You basically just say, like, I'm here to sell you this story, and however you consume stories, I can provide it to you that way. If you have audio. If you don't, then you just pretend that audio doesn't exist and you just say, I have print and ebooks. And these are just some examples of how I've done these things. Like the top one is a really short and pithy one. The bottom one is actually the full first chapter of the story. If you choose to put your full first chapter in one, if you write romance, you have to make it clean. You can't even include the word hell in this copy because Facebook will block it. So, write it like your grandma's going to read it. Unless your grandma's really dirty, then write it like my grandma was going to read it. Because my grandma don't book no nonsense. So, and also when you copy and paste your first chapter of your book in, it will paste it in without any spaces between the paragraphs. So you have to go through, unfortunately, and put in all the spaces between the paragraphs. Do not put up a wall of text that has no spaces between the paragraphs. No one will read it. That goes for everywhere that you put content on the internet. On the internet, the standard is there's no indent on paragraphs, there's a space between paragraphs, and in print there's an indent and no space. But so you want to do this the standard way on the internet. Okay, so I'm going to mosey on. So the next step you have to do is you have to wait for 3 days, and just bite a finger, whatever you got to do, and don't mess with it for 3 days. Also, by the way, always start your ads at $5 a day. The default on Facebook is 20 because Facebook wants your money. Like Facebook, unlike AMS, Facebook will gleefully spend your money as much as you will possibly give it. But you can find out in 3 days at $5 a day if any ad will work. If you spend $20 a day, you can find out in about a day and a half. So you can spend $15 or $30 to find out if an ad will work or not. Then you want to look at a bunch of factors on your ad. And cost is the #1 factor we're going to look at to see if your ad is working. There, by the way, are only 3 things you need to look at to know if an ad is going to work or not. There's also attribution tags that you can set up on Amazon. But that's a whole different thing. If you don't know about attribution tags, you should give it a little. I don't know if anyone's doing talks on them. I'll be doing a class on them online on December 2nd. And attribution tags are a way for you to track any link that you send to Amazon to buy your book. You can tell if it converted or not, and you can tell if you got page reads off that link. So it's definitely a great thing to do. But from just on the Facebook side, we want to assess if our ad's working, and our first factor we're going to look at is cost. There are also 2 other things we want to turn on. Hopefully you can see these fairly, you can see them well. There's result rate and frequency. So these are additional columns in the Facebook ad manager that you need to turn on. On the right-hand side of the screen, there's like a drop-down that says columns, and you click that, and then you go down and choose, is there customize? Customize, it's at the very bottom. So you choose customize, and you turn on result rate and frequency, and then you can save them as your default and never have to do it again, which is why mine is currently set to Mel's default, which says default, default. So you really know it's the default. And then you can also drag and drop the columns. They'll be at the bottom on the right-hand side. And you can literally just drag them up. And I always put them right by my cost per result, because cost per result, result rate, and frequency are the 3 things you need to look at. Cost per result is very similar to cost per click. But on Facebook, a click could be anything. They could click on your author page profile and go look at your author page. They could be just clicking on the see more link if the text is really long. And that's what the cost per click actually is calculating. Cost per result is them going to the destination you want them to go to, the retailer page, books to read, your website, wherever you're trying to drive this traffic. So that's what we want to look at. We want to look at cost per result, result rate, and frequency. Result rate is the percentage of people who saw your ad and then did the result thing. They did the thing that you want. And we can see here that these are the 2 numbers we're looking at first, cost per result and result rate. One is a percentage and one is your dollar amount. And these numbers, what's an acceptable number here is different in every genre. So I write weird science fiction, military science fiction with gay women in the lead, which is a fairly small minority, and also military science fiction is already just fairly small minority. So for me, most of the time, I'm looking at cost per clicks in the 15 to maybe the 23 cents range. 15 is like good. I'm very happy if I can get 15 for my books. If you're a romance author, 20 cents is like your hard upper limit. If you're writing contemporary romance and your cost per click is over 20 cents per click, you're paying too much. Your ad isn't working properly. And it varies a lot on other things. Generally, romance and thriller have the cheapest cost per click because they have the largest audiences. And then all the genre stuff kind of goes up a little higher. You're usually between 15 and 25 cents per click. A hard limit is no ad should ever cost you more than 30 cents per click. If you're paying more than 30 cents per click, your ad isn't working. It's targeting the wrong people, and you can do better. To be honest, 25 cents per click should probably be everybody's limit, but you can let it hit 30, get up to 30 every now and then if you really don't feel like making new ads, which is me sometimes. And then result rate, of course, is a way to gauge interest. And so, a high result rate means that people see your ad, they like it, and they click. Like it's engaging, you're hitting the right target, they like what they're seeing, and they click. Different result rates are normal in different genres as well. In romance, a result rate under 10% means your ad is terrible and it's not working. In military science fiction with gay women in the lead, a result rate over 2% is awesome. And so I can actually look at this and be like, cool, some of my ads are doing really well, and this one that's at 1.68% result rate is not hitting the mark. I'm like, I could do better. And I can see I can do better because I have another one right above it that's at 4.6%, which means that basically almost 3 times the number of people that see the second ad in this row, because this is like just looking at different ads I have running, it's 2 to 3 times more effective for the same cost per click. So in a way, I can think of as my ad with the poor result rate is actually driving people away. And I could be doing better by just turning it off, which I did, turn that ad off. So for really niche stuff, 2 to 4% is usually what you're going to get for result rate. For more standard genre stuff like urban fantasy, like regular fantasy, more mainstream science fiction, you can very easily get like a 4 to 8% result rate. Genre romance, you're looking at like maybe 8 to 12, 8 to 14% result rate. Thrillers are kind of in that same realm as genre romance. By genre romance, I mean like paranormal, reverse harem, bully, dark romance, stuff like that. And then anything sort of more contemporary mainstream romance, you can be looking at 10 as much as 20% result rate, which is amazing. Like 1 in 5 people that see your ad will click, which can be pretty awesome. And if you're not getting those kinds of numbers, then you're not doing as well as you could be for your genre. So that's sort of just some ballpark numbers. I guess one of the things I didn't mention, for those of you who don't really know a lot about me, well, I guess I did say I work with a lot of authors on their ads. I've probably worked one-on-one with 300 or 400 authors over the last year, and I've helped thousands of authors with their ads, which is one of the ways I know this, because a lot of people say, like, Mal, how do you know these numbers? Like, where can I find out these numbers? I'm like, unfortunately, you just have to work with hundreds of authors and see their numbers. So it's sort of like a bit of a bonus that I get to see all of the stuff and then share with you kind of what you should expect in these different areas. So the result rate's pretty easy to spot. Like, I've kind of given you guys some basic numbers, and of course you can also compete against yourself. You're like, well, Mal said that, like, I write military science fiction, and she said I should expect like, maybe 4% result rate, but I'm getting 7 on this one ad. Then great, 7's now your new bar. You should be trying to get like 5 to 7% result rate on your ads. If you're writing thrillers and you can get an 18% result rate on this one ad, that's your bar. Don't look at listen to what I said. Like, you think yourself, I can do 18%. I should be striving for that. And that doesn't mean that if something's at 15%, you turn it off. But it might mean that if something's at like 7%, you would certainly think about that, or you think about how you can improve it. So kind of, understand that you are in a way competing against yourself as much as anything else. You're trying to do better, have every ad do the best it can do, because it's your money that you're spending, right? So you want everything to be as effective as it can. So I talked a little bit about some ballpark numbers about like what cost is okay, because that's one of the big things. People are like, is my ad profitable? Is it making money? Am I throwing away my money? I don't know. And so one of the things you have to kind of get an idea about is how many clicks does it take to sell a book? And we used to have to guess. We used to have to basically say, like, okay, if I'm running AMS ads, I take out all of the sales that AMS said they got me, and then I just wait for a period where I'm not doing any promotion, no newsletters, no swaps or anything like that, and then assume that most of the sales are coming from Facebook, and then say, like, okay, Facebook sent 100 clicks to my page, and I sold 2 books, which means, I'm selling, it's 1 in 50. Or I sent 100 clicks to my page and I sold 10 books, which means I'm selling 1 book every 10 clicks. We have to kind of guess. Now that we have the attribution tags, you can actually tell plus or minus 20% exactly how many books your ad is selling. So you'll actually know how many clicks it takes to sell a book, and that's some fantastic information. So I always say, like, start off with the assumption of you're doing like maybe like 1 in 20 or 1 in 15 clicks buys your book. I know it's amazing, right? Like, we think, like, you clicked on my ad and I'm amazing and you saw my book. Why didn't you buy it? And it's because they're jerks. They didn't. So you can just do the math, right? You can say, like, okay, if it takes 15 clicks to sell a book and my cost per click is 17 cents, then it costs me $2.55 to sell a book. And that's where you're going to realize that you need a series and you need read through, because these are pretty good numbers, to be honest. And if you think about, like, for example, if we change this to like 25 cents or 30 cents or something like that, we're moving up to $6, $5 to $6 to sell a book. And most of us, for a $3.99 book, is only making us $2.70. So you have to have that read through, which is why for most people I say you can't really be running Facebook ads until you have a trilogy, because then you can guarantee that the read through is going to make your ads profitable. I can count on my hands and toes the number of authors that can run Facebook ads and be profitable on book 1. So that's a really high bar. Don't hold yourself to it. You need a series to be profitable. For most of my books, I need a series to be profitable. I'm not profitable on book 1. Also, I run most of my book 1s at 99 cents because I'm trying to just capture as many humans as I possibly can. So this is basically just the example of, like, what your cost to sell the book is. Cost to sell book times 2. What am I doing here? Oh, right. So my series read-through value, I calculated it. Reader Links has a way of calculating your series read-through value. I have a spreadsheet that you can use to do that. But you would also then just sort of say, like, assuming that, why did I say times 2? I'm just desperately trying to figure out why I did this. What? Okay, I'm gonna go with what you said. My cost is supposed to be half. This is my, I'm like, I had COVID 4 times and I don't really remember exactly what I was trying to say here. I think I was trying to count read through. This is terrible. I'm like doing so well here, aren't I? I have no idea what I was trying to do with that. I think I talked ahead of my slide and confused myself. Anyway, now I'm getting red. You can see that. It happens. It's not the fact I'm wearing rubber. It's actually just being embarrassed. I forgot what I wrote on my slide. I think I'm supposed to have something significant this is supposed to mean. But basically what it comes down to is know your cost to sell your book, know the value of your read through, and then make sure the cost of your ad isn't more than the value of your read through. It's fairly simple. And I already talked about result rate. I do this backwards a lot of the time. All right, so this is actually some other information that's useful to know too. The result rate is a measure of how well your ad creative is resonating with the audience. And so think about the way that people use Facebook or you use TikTok or Instagram or whatnot. You're basically doom scrolling at 1 in the morning when you should be sleeping, or maybe you get up and you start doom scroll, or whatever you're doing, whatever terrible behavior you have for spending too much time on social media. And it's the images that catch your attention. It's very rarely the text that's going to catch your attention, because on ads especially, it's just too small. So the image catches your attention. It's high contrast. It's conveying genre and trope, or if it's like me, it's conveying shoes, sparkly shoes or something like that. And it stops me from scrolling, and I look at it and I decide to engage with it. If your image is the wrong image showing to the right people, or the right image showing to the wrong people, they're just going to scroll all by, and that's one of these that can drive your result rate down. And so the number one reason why is because your audience that you selected with isn't resonating with your creative, and your creative needs to change. Usually you can get the audience right. It's pretty easy when you're going to Facebook to pick a decent audience, because you can choose genres, you can choose authors. Actually, one funny little side example is I work with this one author, and she's fairly well known in the romance world. She's not like household name, but she's pretty close. And we were trying to construct an audience for her, and she's like, well, half the women in the United States read romance, so why don't we just show my ad to all the women in the United States? And I'm like, sure, let's try it. Let's try and show your ad to all the women in the United States. So we built an audience of 70 or 90 million people. I kid you not. And it took Facebook about 2 weeks to figure it out, and then that ad just performed like gangbusters. Because the image that she was using screamed her brand of romance. There was no way to look at this image and not understand that this was a romance ad. So anybody who doesn't read romance scrolled on by, and all the people who were interested stopped and looked at it. And Facebook was able to figure out by that behavior what people were doing. And so that's what you have to do. So it's very likely that you're going to find a bunch of readers in whatever size audience you pick. I mean, you could pick people who love to watch Knight Rider, and you're going to find a bunch of readers in there. Just target all the people who watch Knight Rider, which is Jill and my daughter. My 12-year-old daughter loves Knight Rider. Which is awesome, right? I mean, who doesn't love Knight Rider? Anyway, and so if you show some really bookish stuff to that audience, Facebook's going to figure out who the bookish people are who like that, and they're going to show them the image. It's going to figure out who doesn't like it and remove it. So that's actually a really important thing, is whatever image you pick needs to focus as much on excluding people as it needs to focus on including people. So you really want to make sure your image filters out. You write high heat, erotic romance, you write reverse harem or something like that, you need to make that image look as smutty as you can get away with on Facebook, so that the people who don't want to read that kind of content don't stop and look at your ad, because you don't want them to go to the Amazon product page and then leave, because that teaches Amazon your book doesn't sell. So it's all about filtering people out as much as drawing people in. And the other possibility is the exact flip side, is that you've got the perfect image, but you've picked the wrong audience, which is harder to do. It's, like I said, usually any decent sized audience is going to have a bunch of people in who read your book. So the conventional wisdom, by the way, used to be that your audience size, or I'll actually put this next slide, because I do this all the time. I do my things out of order. This can just, for those of you who want to copy down what sort of your ideal result rates should be, these are kind of what they are. But your conventional wisdom used to be, don't make your audience bigger than 1 million, because Facebook's terrible at figuring out who to show your ad to. Facebook is now significantly better than we are at figuring out who to show our ads to. In fact, recently Facebook, well, I guess not recently anymore, it was like January or something of this last year, they sent out an email saying, stop narrowing your audience so much, give our AI something to work with. And they basically, we're better at finding your customers than you are, so just let us do our jobs. And they were right. Like, a lot of people buck against it. They're like, no, I can't let the robots do this for me. I must be in control of my destiny. But the robots are really good at this, because it's really boring work, and we don't want to have to do it. The robots are really good at doing boring work, so let them do the boring work. So ideally, you want to make an audience of at least 1 million people. Ideally, even 10 million people if you can get away with it. Now, don't make an audience that's 10 million people by throwing the kitchen sink at it, like saying, like, everybody who watches Schitt's Creek, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars, like, let's just make this audience as big as I can. Like, make sure it's still like kind of like focused on like the people that you think are gonna read your book. And like ways to think about that too is authors are always a great option to pick. If you can find authors in your genre that you can target, go for it. There are like 50 romance authors, for example, that you can target. There's about 20 sci-fi authors that you can target on Facebook targets. Some of these genres are a little bit harder, like urban fantasy is a little bit trickier because there aren't a lot of like old-timey authors from the days of yore or super popular current authors that you can target. But what you can also do is you can say like, hey, let's target everybody who watches these urban fantasy TV shows, and then you can click this button that says narrow audience, and you put in fiction books and narrow down by people who read fiction books. The conventional wisdom used to be to choose something like Amazon Kindle or whatnot, but honestly, like we don't really care where people read books. Unless they have someone if you're in KU, you still don't really care because unless someone has like an abiding hatred for Amazon, they'll probably buy an Amazon book anyway if they really like it. Or they'll buy your print edition because you put your print link in your ad. If you're wide, then you really don't care. All you care is they read fiction books. But most of the time, if you just pick authors, you don't need to narrow down at all anymore because we're not really worried about them reading on a device or anything like that. We're just worried that we just want them to read books. There are a couple of caveats when you're building your audience. You don't want to pick targets, if you're picking like author kinds of targets, you don't want to pick targets that are aimed at the casual readers. So don't pick E.L. James, don't pick Harry Potter, stuff like that, because the readers that those books really hit it big with only read like 1 to 3 books a year. So you want to target the authors who are smaller, generally speaking, because those are the ones that have the voracious readers who will consume everything they read, and you want those voracious readers to read your books. Also, it means that they're very much like, if someone like reads E.L. James versus, I don't know, like Susan Malorie, just as a rough example, those romance authors. Some of those people are definitely much more like romance readers versus someone who just picked up a cool book off the supermarket shelf because they thought it was interesting. So if you can pick smaller, more niche authors, great. Also, when you're picking TV shows and whatnot, like don't pick Buffy the Vampire Slayer for urban fantasy because we all watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer because, Cordelia was really hot. I mean, and since likewise for Supernatural, right? How many people watch Supernatural for Dean's ass? Exactly, right? Like, some people are just saying, I watched Supernatural. You didn't catch the for Dean's ass until your hand was up. I like that. That was well done. Go me. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, right. But like some of these really big properties are catching people outside their genre. So you really want to try and focus on the smaller properties that are really like the people who really love that genre will read those things. And that's the ways that you can really focus on building a good audience of people who really like a thing. And then work at. And it's a bit of a skill. It's an art to build an audience in Facebook to try and get the audience over 1 million people. And then so you can get it as big as 10 million people, you can do that. And the reason why you want to do that is because the bigger the audience, the longer it takes to saturate it, and that means the longer you can run the ad. And I hate working on ads. I know, right? Like I hate working on ads so much I got really good at it and made it into my career. Which is dumb. I don't know why I did that, but it's fun. I actually really do love helping people with their ads. But I also I don't want to spend like an hour a day looking at my ads. I don't want to spend an hour a week looking at my own ads. And I don't want you guys to have to do that either. So if you build an ad with a good audience, you give Facebook a lot of images, a lot of text to work with, you can have an ad that will run at like 15 cents per click at a great result rate, sometimes for as long as a year, and you just don't have to touch it. But you do have to touch it a little bit. I only have 7 minutes left. Oh my God. So I just saw it down there. I'm like, oh God. Anyway, I should stop talking. So one of the things I should keep talking, but anyway, you know what I mean, is that when we're trying to make these ads, these dynamic creative ads where Facebook's creating all these possible combinations for us, we are not trying to find one ad to rule them all. There is no one best ad because the ad that resonates with me is not the ad that resonates with Jill, is not the ad that resonates with, I don't know anybody else's name. I do everybody's name. I know half the people's names, but now I can't think of names. Anyway, I'm good at doing presentations, I swear. It's like an actual skill of mine, I'm honest. Anyway, but the ads that resonate with each of us are different, and you're not going to find one ad that works perfectly for everybody. That's insane. So the whole reason of doing this is to give Facebook a bunch of ads to work with, and then just get rid of the stuff that doesn't work. We want to trim out the stinkers, is how I refer to it, which I always think of Sam calling Gollum a stinker whenever I say this. And we're just like removing the Gollums from our ads. But the Gollum, not the Smeagol Gollum, because he was cute. Anyway, so when you're making, one of the things that people in the days of yore, you always used to say when you're making your ad set, one of the things you choose is the placements, which is like where in the giant metaverse your ad is going to show. And the wisdom used to be like, just show it on the Facebook feed, don't show it anywhere else. But there's actually some amazing places. Like I have ads that do shockingly well on the Business Explore page, which I don't even know what that is. I guess it's a page where you explore local businesses. I've never clicked on that page on Facebook, and I probably never will. I'm guessing that my ads do well there because people are bored as fuck while they're looking at the Business Explore page, and they're like, cool, spaceship, and they click on that, and away they go. So I heard that Michael Anderle didn't drop that many F-bombs in his talk this morning, so I figured I have to throw in a couple for him because he used to swear so much. What's happened to him? Anyway, so to find out how your ad's doing in different placements, what you do is you click breakdown on the ad manager. It's going to be on the right side of the screen, amongst the 3 buttons. They're in the upper right side of the screen. You choose breakdown, and then you choose by delivery and then placement. And then what it will do is it will show you all the different places your ad is showing, and it will then tell you what is your cost per result and what is your result rate in all these different placements. And we're just looking for the ones that are really expensive or have super shitty result rates. And we're just going to go in and edit the ad and remove those placements. And then they're gone, and we can keep all these good ones. Is this the one that has the good Business Explorer? Yeah, there it is. Up at the, or is it? Oh, I can't read that. It's too small. And my contacts are giving out on me. Nah, it's not that good on this one, I guess. I had one where it was like 7%. It was amazing. And so the whole idea is like, there's lots of places our ad can show, and we're going to show as many as we can and just prune out the ones that won't work. Likewise, you can also do, on the breakdown thing back on the screen, the bottom option is by dynamic creative element, and then inside of that will be a drop down for your images, your primary text, and your headlines. So we would do that, and then we can see for our different images that we're running what their cost per click is and what the result rate is. And I can see here that one of these images one's doing great and 2 are doing kind of meh. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably try and find some more images, put those in, and remove the ones that aren't doing that well. And I do that in the same ad. I don't duplicate. I don't do anything like that. I just keep working on the same ad because I'm honing this ad for the audience that Facebook has created. I'm trying to work with these things together. You can do the same thing for your text. You can see your different text options you've put in, and then you can see your different headlines that you put in as well and see which ones are working best and then prune out the ones that aren't. And the last thing we're going to want to do is hone our audiences. So I've already talked a lot about the result rate, but the frequency is the number of times in the selected date range. So whenever you're working in the Facebook Ad Manager, up in the right-hand corner, there's a date range that you choose. So if you set that to 30 days, your result rate shouldn't be too much over 2, because 2 means that in the last 30 days, on average, people have seen your ad 2 times. When you're running dynamic creative ads, a lot of times those numbers are a little bit higher because, like I said, there could be 12 to 30 ads behind the scenes. So sometimes those numbers can be kind of high. I used to be that I would always say never let it get above 2. Now I'm kind of like, 2, 2.5 is okay. If it's starting to get up over 3, then you kind of got to worry about it. But it sort of just means if your ads cost is starting to go up and result rate starting to go down, look at your frequency. And if your frequency is really high, that means you've basically saturated this audience, and people are getting tired of you. So I've already talked about this, choosing authors, genre, or TVs and movies. But one of the things you can do when your audience maybe is saturated, when your result rate's going up, or result rate's going down, and your cost per click's going up, is just make a small tweak to that audience. Add in another author. Maybe remove an author that you think was maybe not a great choice. And what that will do is will make Facebook relearn your audience, and it'll go put your ad back in a learning phase, and it might find brand new humans to show your ad to. So there's lots of ways you can just take one ad and just keep tweaking it, like putting in new images, taking out the ones that aren't working, tweaking your audience every now and then. And once you start, you go through this process of creating the ad, letting it run for 3 to 5 days, making sure your basic cost per result and result rate are good. Then you let it run for another 5 to 7 days, and then you'll have enough data to start removing the stinkers, the things that are dragging your ad down that have a bad result rate or a really high cost per click. And once you do that, you can start increasing spend. And you can increase your spend by about $5 every 3 to 5 days. Make sure these numbers remain stable. You're going to reach a point, as you increase your spend, your cost per click will go up and your result rate will start to go down. The explanation for that takes 15 minutes, and I've only got 1 minute and 18 seconds, so I'm not going to give it to you right now. But our free 5-day Facebook challenge are running in January. I actually go through that whole description because it takes almost an hour. But what you're looking for is basically you want to keep increasing your spend until the cost per click and the result rate start to move into the realm of unacceptable numbers. You back off your spend by $5 a day, and usually you can let that ad run for months at that point. And that's how you do it. And then, of course, the fifth step, because we have 5 steps, is just to repeat steps 3 and 4, which is what I just said, just repeating the honing process, taking out the bad ones, putting in new images, new text, new headlines, until you find like ones that work really well, and then keeping an eye on it and improving them. And like if you do this process, you will literally only need to spend an hour a week at most working on your ads once they're established. And I am a ferociously lazy author. I know everybody else as well when it comes to all this admin stuff. We would rather be writing books. And so that's the goal here, right? Is let the AIs do the work for us, give them a bunch of things to work with, and then we just go off and write books and have fun and go to conventions and drink, right? So I finished with 17 seconds to spare. So thank you. Even though I totally botched that one slide. You guys are awesome. I know, like all this was great. I'm gonna remember the slide I botched. You can go to thewritingwives.com/Vegas. We have some offers up there, some links to different things we have going on. You can get on our mailing list so you find out when we're doing the free 5-day Facebook ad challenge. And also we do a lot of consulting and training for authors on a host of things, not just ads. And we're gonna have a Black Friday sale next week as well. So you might want to check that out. All right, thank you very much, everyone.